How'd you make out on that exercise? What ideas did you come up with on how to reduce Mutaisi's business costs? Let's see what Chalmers has provided for us. So let's read on in the exercise. So now it's time to share advice with Mutaisi on how she can better manage her business costs. I'm going to call out each of Mutaisi's cost categories, and each time we can quickly report our ideas or your ideas as the business advisor to reduce her costs. So here we go. Number one, materials and supplies. What did you come up with? Well, that's right. Instead of buying from her local convenience retailer, she could buy from a wholesale producer, right? Or a wholesaler or wholesaler of these products or those raw materials, and probably be able to buy at better prices. That's a great way for her to save costs on those weekly costs of her supplies and materials. What about workers? Well, engage a family member to help her with the work. Perhaps there's a family member that can help at no cost, right? To help chip in for the family. What about services? Well, maybe take a bicycle as transport or get one of the local taxi scooter services to take her. Maybe that'll be less than the bus, especially if she provides like a daily rendezvous, a set time every time. She can negotiate a monthly cost. Perhaps she could drive down her costs that way. What about operating costs? Well, it says instead of kerosene, which is more expensive, maybe use charcoal for fuel. Could she do that to operate her stove? And then losses. Do not offer free samples or materials to friends. Now let me say a little bit about this one because I've taught this material quite often in Rwanda and in East Africa. And this is really a cultural issue. When family members operate a business, and in particular a restaurant, there are many women that operate restaurants, and we have quite a few women who started these businesses out of savings groups, actually. And in fact, if you saw the training series on on savings groups, you'll recall the video of Clementine. She started a business. She now has like 3 or 4 businesses she's operating, but one of them was a restaurant. And I was talking to Clementine and others that I've taught this material to, and family members expect to come in and eat for free. That's a cultural norm. So that's a tough one, right? That's something you have to talk through with these folks and say, well, you recognize that's a business expense. You're going to have to decide if you want to carry that business expense forever, or can you educate your family members on it hurts the family long term if they're feeding them for free for meals. So we're culturally in our country, if we were to go eat at a family restaurant, we would often still pay, right? Because that's kind of our cultural norm. Something you're gonna have to talk through. Often in Africa, this is an issue. And you can see quite a bit of leakage, actually, quite a bit of loss out of a family restaurant business because of this. Think about it. If so many family members come in and expect to eat for free, that's gonna cost a good portion of the profit. So that's a real issue. Now, item 6 there talks about equipment. It says instead of taking a loan, I think they talk about taking a loan from a money lender, they could probably take a loan from a savings group at a lower interest rate, and interest would be a lower expense for them. So that's a possible way, a good way of driving down the business costs. Or perhaps let's say that Mutaisi's already borrowing from the savings group. Is there a way she could work out maybe a long-term loan, long-term deal with a lesser interest rate as a preferred customer? Maybe. I mean, that happens at banks, right? They're differentiated interest rates that are charged customers. If she's a good risk, if she's been good at paying back her loan on a regular basis, maybe she could negotiate a lower interest rate. Why not? So those are the kinds of ideas you might be able to give Mutaisi. Now, let's move on to part 4 and summarize what we've just discussed as part of planning for your business costs. So what we do is we encourage the group, the participants in the group, and say, hey, you've just now completed the 4th step out of 6 in planning for a better business. And that is planning for your business costs and looking at ways to reduce costs so that your profit margin can increase. So in the next section, now that we've completed step 4 of the 6 steps, we're going to move to step 5, which is finding help for the business. This is the labor component. How do you go about finding good help at a fair price, at a good cost for your business. So I look forward to seeing you when we come back for step 5 of planning for a better business. See you then.